In today's currency, it would cost $400 million to build the RMS Titanic. At 269 meters long and over 50 meters high, it was the largest and most expensive ship the world had ever seen. The White Star Line was so confident in the ship's safety features that their vice president publicly claimed the vessel was definitively unsinkable. The interior was designed to surpass five-star hotels. Passengers had access to 2 grand staircases, heated swimming pools, Turkish baths, and even a full-size squash court. Yet, just days into its maiden voyage, the ship struck a massive iceberg. In less than 3 hours, the vessel disappeared beneath the Atlantic, taking 1,500 lives with it. Understanding how such a machine failed requires looking past the ice to examine the specific chain of corporate demands, ignored warnings, and mechanical errors that led the Titanic into the disaster. The unsinkable label was built on 2 specific features: a double bottom hull and a system of 16 watertight compartments designed to isolate flooding. On April 14th, a 1.5 million-ton iceberg scraped along the side of the hull. This impact bypassed the reinforced bottom entirely, striking the ship where its protection was thinnest. The ship was engineered to stay afloat with up to 4 flooded compartments. This was the mathematical threshold for survival, but the collision breached 6. Once that 5th compartment took on water, the ship's weight pulled the bow down, making the sinking a mathematical certainty. Because the company relied on these engineering thresholds, they saw lifeboats as redundant. They equipped the ship with only 20 boats, providing enough space for just 1,200 of the 2,200 people on board. These engineering choices didn't just fail to save the ship, they created a false sense of security, leaving the crew unprepared for a total evacuation. On the day of the crash, the crew received 7 separate warnings about ice in their path. Despite this, Captain Edward John Smith maintained a speed of 40 kilometers per hour. Joseph Bruce Ismay, the chairman of the White Star Line, was on board and pressured the captain to maintain this speed. He wanted the Titanic to break the 6-day crossing record to prove the ship was the fastest in the world. Ismay's influence was direct. Shown a critical ice warning, he reportedly pocketed the paper to ensure the crew wouldn't slow down and jeopardize the record. Captain Smith followed this lead. He even canceled a mandatory passenger safety drill that had been scheduled for the morning of the collision. When the iceberg was finally spotted, human error took over. Steersman Robert Hitchens panicked and turned the wheel the wrong way, steering the ship directly into the iceberg's path instead of away from it. The impact was the result of a corporate drive for speed and a series of preventable mistakes by the men in charge. After the distress calls went out, the RMS Carpathia responded immediately, but at its top speed, the ship was still over 3 hours away. Help was much closer than that. The SS Californian was idling just 37 kilometers away, close enough that its lights were visible from Titanic's deck. However, the Californian's radio was switched off for the night. When the Titanic's crew fired distress rockets into the air, the Californian's captain dismissed them as celebration fireworks for the wealthy passengers. This left 1,500 people stranded in the Atlantic. In water at -2 degrees Celsius, most victims died from hypothermia within minutes. The high death toll was finalized by a breakdown in communication and a failure of duty from the ships in the immediate area. The disaster led to immediate international inquiries, exposing the systemic failures in both leadership and corporate safety standards. These hearings resulted in the Solis Treaty, which still mandates that every ship must carry enough lifeboats for every person on board and maintain a 24-hour radio watch. In 1985, the wreckage was finally located nearly 4 kilometers deep on the ocean floor. Today, metal-eating bacteria are rapidly consuming the ship's framework. Experts believe the entire hull will likely disintegrate and disappear by 2030. Even as the wreck dissolves, an Australian billionaire is attempting to build a replica called Titanic 2. However, the project has faced years of delays and little public support. While the physical ship will soon be gone, the wreck remains a record of what happens when engineering limits are ignored in favor of corporate pressure and speed.